All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to do just a very quick overview of some very basic modeling in Blender, just so you can see, like there's some very complicated processes you can do, but you can also just make a very simple shape pretty quickly by using primitives or by using the extrude tools and some of the things that we've talked about in class. And then I'll show you how to put the object that you make into Unity, which is again one of the big parts of game or the workflow of game development overall. So when you go into a scene, you're going to have this like basic shape like this. If you hit A, it's going to highlight everything. You'll notice that it is in object mode right now. And then you can hit X and it will delete it. You can also just use the delete key on your keyboard. And I'm going to do two designs just so you have like an idea of how this process can work. So I usually will start in object mode. You're going to do add. In this case, again, I'm going to use mesh, and then I'll go into a circle right here. All right, and you can always change the size. It'll look like this. In the tutorial, they say a zero point 0.2 curve, but I'm just going to leave it as 1 just because I don't really need it to be a specific size for this assignment. And then again, I can click on this object here and it'll highlight it, or I can use this marquee tool, the select box, and do like this. Okay, once I've done that, I can then go into edit mode. And you can see again, I have these tools that are right here. So I can go to this extrude button right here, and then I can just drag this up like this. Okay. And once you have that, again, you have some things that you can kind of change like this. If you want, you can drag it this way or that way. I'm going to kind of leave it basic for now, and then I can click off of it like this. Okay, so after I've done that, one of the things is I use the middle mouse button to kind of move in like this, and then I'm just going to highlight. I'm going to try to get like this whole top-down view kind of like this. I'm going to highlight it. Now you'll see that some of this got selected, some of it didn't. So the challenge with this is how do you get it so you just see like those edges. So if you go here, again, I just kind of try it out a little bit. This is a little bit curved. So if I pick the vertices right here, I can just kind of do like this. And then what I can do is I can take the scale tool and I can just kind of like taper it in like this. And again, right now I'm just kind of getting an idea. I'm not too concerned with like, oh, this has to be perfect. I'm just trying to get like a basic model shape down. So this is what I have for this section. Let's just say that this is what I want to use for this water can. Okay, now I don't have anything over here, but that's also okay because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a torus just to be like the handle. So I'm going to go to the mesh here. You're going to see that this torus is kind of like this donut shape like this. It's going to be a separate object. You can see it over here in the outliner. And again, I can change its segments like this, but all I'm going to do with the torus is I'm just going to rotate it to be kind of like this. And then I'm going to move it over. And I'm going to change my view. So a lot of modeling is changing the view. This is going to be kind of like the handle, and then I'm going to scale the whole object down. So I'm not really too concerned with this being like, again, super perfect like this. I'm going to scale it like this. And then again, I can move it up right here. And you'll notice again, I might want to scale it this way too, just so that it's not quite as big of a handle to use and to see. And then I have this. Now, you might be saying, well, this wouldn't be a very good water can, and you're right, it wouldn't be, but it also is just a model. So what people would generally see on the object is something like this. Okay. Now, after I've done that, I can use these torus to kind of make a like a spout, or I could use this to like kind of transform a certain area. But again, I'm just getting like a very basic model. I can go in here and change it if I wanted to. Like if I really didn't like this in the on the inside of it here, I could go in and I could cut it, or I could just highlight this and scale it in like I did with the top. But again, I'm just kind of getting a very basic model at this point. What I can also do for the top is I can go up here. I can add another circle, so I can go over here and add a circle. Or, so if I go like this, and you can see like in this case it says fill type, so I can fill it and then I can move it up like this, so you can see that it has this sort of like full circle here, and then I can just scale it to be like a top. I can also hit Shift and D to make another one, and I can place it down here, and now I have these two, which again I can just go in and scale. Now you might be saying, well, this doesn't look like a real water can, but that's also okay, because again I'm getting like a basic model for this, and I can just kind of resize it. And my goal is to just get this and slowly but surely kind of move it around, kind of like this. Now I might decide that I like this, and maybe I can go over here and I can kind of bevel these edges and have all of this stuff. I can look underneath and see, like, is it lining up? It's not, may not be perfect, and that's also okay. And now that I've done this, I can go into edit mode. I can maybe click this section here, like if you look at it, I can highlight these edges, something like this. So if I have this circle, and now this could be the can. I could go in and I could extrude stuff, but again, this is my basic model. So once I have this, I can go in, I can edit the materials like this. But again, this could be just a really like super basic model that you can use. And it is just taking primitive shapes. So I can make a very quick model and just add primitive shapes like this, get something, and then I can slowly go in and edit it. So we'll go into those more specifics as we kind of add stuff, do animations, but basic modeling is just kind of getting the primitive shapes. Think of it by like you're making a sketch or something like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and hit save as. So I'm going to save this file. You're going to see I have a Blender folder right here. And what I'll do from there is I'll just call this water can sketch, something like that. And then I'm going to hit save. Okay, so now I have it here. Again, if you wanted to add the material, I can just show you that. So if I select this, I can go right here. I can pick this object right there, and I can add the material like this. Again, it might take a second, and then I can pick the color. Now, when you move this to Unity and move it into a game engine, sometimes you'll have to do a little more work to get the basic model to add. And you can see my screen is kind of frozen for a second. It does take a bit when you get into the materials sometimes. So just be patient, like try not to click on a bunch of different stuff. You can see again, it's just kind of like spinning. But that's the basic process. Now, you can use the materials in Unity to do some of the editing, and you can add them onto it, which is kind of a nice feature that Unity has. But there's a little bit more to it, like once you have the final objects and you've created like animations, that it will, to make it actually like look like you've created in Blender. And you can see that my computer has frozen, so I'm going to pause for a second and then I'll show you how you can import this to Unity. Usually this doesn't happen, but I'm going to just show you this process to put this into Unity. Okay, so I did get this to work, so I'm going to show you again. You pick the material, we'll do something that's easy to see, kind of like this green color. And then if you go into the shaded view, again, it does take like a little bit to warm up, so just be patient with your computer as it kind of catches up. But what'll happen is once you change it to either this material view or this shaded view right here, you'll be able to see like that's the one that it's selected. And I can also go to this material view that's right here, and you can see it there. Again, not perfect, but that's also okay. I can go in and add this material as well to this object if I want to. You can go to object mode. I can highlight this whole thing, And then I can see that this didn't add it, but if I wanted to add it to everything, I could click this plus sign, make a new material, and you can see that it ran like much faster. I'm going to pick something like super crazy here. Do this, click out of it. I'm going to delete this material. And what should happen is you should see it here, but it just changed this particular object. So you'd have to go kind of object by object. Let's see if we can get this to change really quick. There you go. Okay. All right, so I'll be right back showing you how to add this to Unity, which is going to be the next step. All right, so I've opened just a blank, empty project into Unity. So there's nothing in this scene right now. You can see when you start in Unity, and in most game engines, you're going to have like a camera and a light, and that's about it. So the first thing you need to do is import it. So if I have this project here, my amazing object right here, let's see, I'll make this look a little bit better. Okay, it looks great. So I'm going to hit File and Save, and I'll just show you what happens when you go into Unity. So from here, I'm going to right click. I can also hit Assets, and then you can hit Import New Asset like this. And then the one that you're going to look for, you have your documents here. I have Blender, and then I have this one with Watercan Sketch. And when you double click it, it's going to, again, it takes a second to open, so just be patient. Like, your computer is processing a lot of like visual data, so that does take a bit of time. At first, as you do this a little bit more, it's going to be in. And then once you have it, I can just drag it in like this. And now you can see I've got a few issues here. It looks more like a coffee pot. It's a little bit like you can see all of the shapes. It treats it like if you look at this arrow here, you've got a circle right here. You've got all of these objects. So it's treating it like it imported the materials. But now that I have this, again, I can go in, I can add a plane, for instance, and I can add, like if I click over here, I can add components, like I'll add a rigid body to it, like this. Okay, so if I'm looking at my camera, I can see the object, and it will function just kind of like any of these game objects here. So if I like bring this up, what I should see, again with my unusual water can, coffee pot, whatever you want to call it, I can hit play, and what you're going to see is that it will behave like pretty much any game object here. Now, it fell through this because I don't have a collider on this. So I'm going to go ahead. Actually, it should have a collider on this. Oh, I don't have a collider on this. So I'm going to add a collider just again so you can see it. I'm going to keep it pretty simple for this. I'm just going to add a box collider. Again, I can go in here and change it, but I'm not too worried about it for this demonstration. I'm going to hit play one more time, and I should see this land. Okay, you can see there's a bit of space because when you look at the collider, like when I hit stop, you can see this collider is right here. But otherwise, like I've got a functioning game object. Again, from the perspective of a game designer, you would be looking at like my job if I was making the art for this and maybe I wanted to make this better. I would want to make things like a little bit more visually appealing, of course. I would clean up a lot of these animations. But the basic idea with building game objects in 2D or 3D is this. You make the object, you import it into the game. Either you may be doing both, but as a career, your job could be to make the game objects, it could be to get the game objects to function like they're supposed to in the gameplay, or it could be using all of this stuff and then designing the level. So I hope you found this helpful. Again, this is very like beginner basic, but I think that it's a good overview of like how you can use basic shapes in Blender to make things, import them into games, and get them to start working pretty much immediately. So I hope you have a good day, and we'll be back soon with the next lesson.